Forget about Final Fight, Golden Axe and Streets of Rage. When you think of beat-em-ups, Technos Double Dragon is the OG heavyweight champ. Back in 1987, this arcade sensation wasn't just another game, it was conceived as a direct sequel to Renegade, another Technos gem that set the stage for street vigilante adventures. Yoshihisa Kishimoto, the mastermind behind Double Dragon, took Renegade and kicked it up a notch by adding cooperative gameplay, expansive levels and the thrill of wielding weapons. And just like that, a legend was born, shaping the entire beat-em-up scene. The Lee brothers, Billy and Jimmy, became household names, starring in numerous sequels and spin-offs. Heck, they even scored their own comic series, a TV show and a movie back in the 90s. I was just 10 years old when I first encountered the arcade version. My friends and I would save up what little pocket money we had in the hopes of getting to the arcade early so we can be first to waggle the dual joysticks, hopefully getting to the end and saving poor Marion from the evil clutches of Willie Mackey. But of course, that's not before fighting each other to the death. When Double Dragon hit the gaming scene, it landed like a baseball bat to the throat, instantly becoming an arcade sensation. Who could forget that adrenaline-pumping gameplay as Billy and Jimmy tore through waves of street toughs to rescue Marion from the clutches of the Black Warriors gang? But there's more to Double Dragon than just street brawling. The graphics were top-notch, with big fluidly animated sprites that drew you into the action. And let's not forget about the awesome soundtrack. It pumped you up and kept you on your toes throughout the entire game. Plus, there was a healthy dose of humour thrown in, like the satisfaction of tossing a wide-eyed thug into a pit, which always brought a grin to my face. Sure, you could cheese your way through by spamming the elbow move, but where's the fun in that? It's the balance of strategy and skill that makes Double Dragon a timeless classic. Technos wasted no time riding the wave of the first game's success, delivering this sequel hot on its heels the following year. As expected, it felt like deja vu, kicking off with Marion once again under attack by the Black Warriors. This time though, things took a darker turn as Marion was shot and killed, but fear not, Technos conveniently inserted some credits to bring her back for future adventures. The sequel brought some new moves to the table, like the iconic Cyclone Kick, and cranked up the challenge with faster, smarter enemies that made spamming the elbow smash a less viable tactic. But let's be real, the Revenge felt more like a remix than a true sequel. It's no wonder it was originally conceived as an update for the original game board. The Revamp would have been a more fitting title. It sure seems like Technos was far too busy rolling in the dough from the first two games to handle development duties for the third instalment, so they passed the torch to East Technology. Double Dragon 3 shook things up by introducing support for 3 players, with the addition of yellow-suited Sonny to the crew. And let's talk about those new attacking options. Hello, run, move. But make no mistake, this game was no walk in the park. Luckily, there were in-game shops where you could stock up on weapons, boost your power, and even recruit extra fighters. So where's the catch? They only took cold, hard cash. Talk about a rip-off. It was basically the loot box controversy of its time. Smart move by Technos to scrap the shop system for the Japanese version, but even without it, Double Dragon 3 felt like the odd one out compared to its predecessors. And don't even get me started on the plot. How did we go from brawling on city streets to squaring off against Egyptian Queen Cleopatra in outer space? The transition of the first 3 games to home systems was a bit of a mixed bag to say the least, but when it came to finding a cosy spot, the NES was like the Double Dragon's nest. The games were reworked for the console, offering beefed up levels with platforms galore. Then, along came this gem, developed by Technos exclusively for the Super Nintendo. It felt more like a natural progression from the NES trilogy rather than the arcade originals. Once again, Billy and Jimmy were on a mission to save Marion, cracking skulls along the way. The combat got a tweak, introducing moves that let you take on enemies on both sides simultaneously. But let's be honest, It was starting to feel a tad predictable at this point. Even those classic scenes of brawling in a rising elevator and atop a moving vehicle made a comeback. However, the Japanese version, known as Return of Double Dragon, got a few touch-ups that really polished things up. The release of Street Fighter II really shook things up. Suddenly, one-on-one fighters were all the rage again. So, some genius over at US publisher TradeWest got this bright idea. Why not cash in on the trend by creating a Street Fighter II clone for the Super Nintendo, slapping the Double Dragon name on it and tying it to the Double Dragon cartoon that was all the rage on TV at the time? Well, let's just say it didn't exactly knock it out of the park. The result? A lackluster tournament fighter that got completely overshadowed by the home versions of Street Fighter II. And don't even get me started on the Sega Mega Drive and Atari Jaguar versions. They were just as disappointing. Even die-hard Double Dragon fans weren't impressed. Besides, Billy, Jimmy and a few characters from the cartoon, the roster felt like it was filled with rejects from the Star Wars Cantina bar. After this stumble with the Shadow Falls, Technos didn't back down. They came back swinging with their own one-on-one fighter. This time, they did things right. Developed for the Neo Geo arcade hardware, this game was a breath of fresh air, packed with all the over-the-top whiz-bang action fans could ask for. And guess what? It brought back a bunch of familiar faces from the earlier games, like a Bobo, Burnov, Duke, and even Marion stepping up and doing her best Chun-Li impression. Talk about a comeback! Unfortunately, Technos closed up shop not long after this game hit the scene, but that wasn't the end of Double Dragon. After an 8-year break, the Dragons made a triumphant return in an exclusive title crafted by Million for the Game Boy Advance. At first glance, it seemed like a simple update of the original arcade game, which, let's be real, never got the faithful conversion it deserved. But it was so much more. It played like a love letter to fans, a greatest hits compilation of sorts. Billy and Jimmy were armed with their most extensive arsenal of moves yet, bringing back all the classics. They even threw in ground attacks from Renegade for good measure, alongside some slick new combos and juggles. The game didn't just recycle old content, it remixed original stages, added new ones, and brought back old foes with some new tricks up their sleeves. It was a perfect blend of the familiar and the fresh, giving fans that warm nostalgia kick while still delivering plenty of surprises. Oh man, not this again, groans Billy, rolling his eyes as Marion gets kidnapped by the warriors once more.
Marion? Oh man, not this again.
Yup, the cheeky humour that gave us a sneak peek in the first game and really shined in Double Dragon Advance, well, it's front and centre now in this loving tribute not just to the series, but to beat-em-ups, retro remakes, and the glorious 80s era. But hey, it's not all about nostalgia and inside jokes. Neon packs a serious punch as a fighting game. Seriously, dive into all those stances and special moves and you'll see what I mean. Available for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 and PC, Neon captures Double Dragon at its wildest and wackiest, making it a must-play for fans itching to dive back into the series. The newest addition to the series comes with quite a puzzling title. Skipping over the arcade editions, it's actually a continuation of the 3 NES games, hence the number 4. However, story-wise, it fits in after NES Double Dragon 2. Despite being available on modern platforms like the PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch and PC, it deliberately channels the look and vibe of the NES era. It's an interesting choice, leaning heavily into the retro feel, but still manages to deliver some fleeting excitement as a beat-em-up. As for where the series heads next, well, that's anyone's guess, but with the Double Dragon legacy still going strong after 30 years, it seems Billy and Jimmy will keep on fighting the good fight for a while longer. Double Dragon left an indelible mark on the gaming industry, solidifying the beat-em-up genre and inspiring countless successors. Its innovative cooperative multiplayer mode allowed 2 players to team up and take on enemies together, a novel concept that paved the way for future co-op experiences. The game's blend of martial arts combat and urban settings struck a chord with gamers, influencing the aesthetic and mechanics of franchises like Streets of Rage and Final Fight. Beyond video games, Double Dragon's popularity spawned an animated series, comic books, and even a live-action movie adaptation, cementing its status as a cultural phenomenon. To this day, the game's iconic characters and memorable moments remain etched in the collective consciousness of retro gaming enthusiasts worldwide. Thanks ever so much for taking the time to check out my video. I'm Bitmap Jack. Be sure to stay tuned for more retro deep dives.